name system actually has 3D printers. Things that vary if you obviously.
Well, thanks for hosting that. I couldn't go. I had both of my kids home to watch.
It ended up
the
being
game.
crazy.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, I'd
barely,
still like to see
that bar was like packed.
Yeah.
Although-
No, it was very rare to get both kids over, especially for our next game.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. I'm not going.
It'd be nice for this new administration, especially.
We're right, by the way.
Okay. Welcome to the June 2026 meeting of the Executive Committee. My name is Sandy McKee and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez and Assistant District Manager Brendan Bird. This meeting is called to order at
6:33.
6:32. Members of the public are attended virtually. You may raise any questions or comments that you have at the Q&A feature of Zoom. Second Vice Chair Justin Goldberg will take the minutes tonight, although he's not here.
We'll
Maybe
send
he's-
the recording and whatnot.
His AI avatar will be.
Okay, we will now take attendance by roll call. Brendan will call the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name. When your name is called, please say present. I'll announce if there is quorum. Tanya Arias is absent. Neil Barclay.
Present, working on the camera.
Okay. Stu Desser will be coming here later. Maya Donahue.
Present.
Jason Cromway.
Present.
Justin Goldberg. Present. Rupal Picard.
Present.
Don Keller.
Present.
Anton Malner.
Present.
Sandy McKee.
Present.
Alex Milichek.
Present.
Steve Perez.
Present.
Pat Valera.
Present.
And Jerry Weinstein.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the agenda for tonight's meeting is reflected on the screen before you. If there's an objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from April's and May's meetings are still being drafted. Once they are ready for your review, they will be sent to you. Ground rules, don't speak until granted the floor. If you have a question about committee business, you raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. I don't think we have anyone on. Oh, Neil, you know what to do if you have a question. Raise your hand. And please don't use the chat. So tonight's agenda, chair's report. So I actually was just at the opening party for some Councilmember Maloney and ran into Fred. I'm gonna gap on his last name, but from the 42nd Street, and he mentioned that he was looking for a seating space. I think
We talked about it previously.
yeah. So he said that he's still looking and that there may be, he just said they're kind of expensive because they have to take them down for the winter. So what this is it's a designated sitting area and they're looking for one in CB6. And it will be sponsored by the 42nd Street. So he said it's still on the agenda.
Yeah, they were having trouble finding someone that wanted it.
Yeah.
It's similar to the restaurant seating, but it's not for restaurants, it'd be like public seating.
Yeah. I mentioned that we had passed the resolution about Park Avenue, and he was saying that maybe it's a 10 to 15 year project, not 30 years, which was very hopeful. One of the two issues that I wanted to, well, several issues that I wanted to talk about. One, we've been notified again about the New York City Community Planning Fellowship. And this is something that we've done in previous years. Alec actually directed someone from this last year. And we're gonna pull it up. There is a method to doing it. And,
Well, that's not what I want to share.
okay,
Yeah, the share feed has been a little bit weird on me. It's not.
and, every year Jesus compiles it for us. One year we submitted 3.
I can share it.
And I think we were given 2 people. One, it is somewhat time consuming for whoever's going to direct it within the board. But it's certainly been very worthwhile. They do great work. Quite often do require a little bit of direction. But
What did they do for you last year?
Our planning fellow did some research on senior housing within our community district and posed some solutions to address ways in which we can advocate for housing that addresses seniors' needs. I will say that our planning fellow was not a planner. She had a social, I forget what it was, but it wasn't like a planning or a social studies background, so she really struggled with doing some like data research and mapping skills that I think are really required in order to do a great job at this. Regardless, I think she still did a really great job, and I did learn a lot of stuff from her presentation. But to Sandy's point, I think that the planning fellow will need a bit of guidance and some direction.
And is there anything that the committee is going to follow up with from the presentation?
I think we will. Yeah, she posed some ideas that I think we can think about over the summer. We did learn a bit of information pertaining to like certain pockets of higher concentrations of senior populations in the district that I think we can also work with. And I think the reason why we wanted her to be the fellow for our committee was with the explicit reason to kind of pose ways in which the housing can advocate for senior uses, which I think she did.
Yeah. So they are called planning fellows, but there's been a really broad range of things that other community boards have utilized their expertise for. So
I should know this, but what is the scope of where they're being sourced from? Because I immediately think of like a Pratt, but is it
Yeah,
all of
so-
CUNY student?
I
Ours was from Fordham.
Fordham.
We had one from Columbia and transportation.
Yeah, so I think it's anyone who wants to apply can. One thing, we put out our request, and then they have, someone who's within the program has to select us to work with. So it's not a given that you will get someone to work with. And you actually don't get to choose, they choose us. So, it's due, Brendan, when is it due?
Let me check just a
And
moment.
can you make that a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
that application tip, so we can read it? I think bigger
Oh,
stuff.
Jesus is sharing his screen.
Is that big enough?
Bigger.
A little
please.
bigger.
The deadline is September 4th,
September 4th.
Oh,
so if there's the summer to think upon it.
Although the summer passes very quickly. We have only 2 more meetings for exec. So it really, if you have an idea for how it could be used for a committee, it would be good to start thinking about it right away.
What I would suggest, I will be on vacation for the last 2 weeks of August. And it's probably good to have this hammered down by like August 1st. That'll give us time to send it in. That'll give Sandy time to view it and make sure she's okay with it. And they're not asking for like a 30-page document, 1 or 2 pages outlining your plan. And the sooner you get it to us, the better we can sort of read it ourselves and make sure that we understand it. Because if we understand it, then it's likely the program will understand it. Because the last 2 weeks of August, just a heads up, I will be probably.
Yeah, you don't want to be parsing this at the very last minute. And do you have examples of what we submitted previously so people can get an idea?
We have a sample, for example, of what Alec submitted last year. It's not here. We can put it together. We can just send it to you guys if you'd like.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And quite often, at Borough Board, we talked about this, that every board that's gotten a planning fellow has said how great it's been for the district. And one thing, they can do a lot of research, which is something that we don't have time to do. And, you know, working with someone on the board, that research can be put together in ways that help the community. So, what was the transportation was about,
Third
Urban
Avenue, vision.
yeah, but it was basically about curb use, right?
Yeah, bike lane,
Yeah.
bus lanes, yeah.
I think land use, were you on land use when they happened?
I think it was right before, I think she gave her presentation of my first day.
Okay. And we had an analysis of POPs. We had someone look at the 197A plan and talk about ways that things could be revised for that.
Is there anything that you strongly suggest the planning fellow should look at?
Off the top of my head, not right now. But anything that requires data, mine.
I have a question on like, if we're gonna be more aggressively pursuing like landmarking certain stuff like buildings, but also like when we're talking about the 1863 draft riots, like we can just do more research on what has occurred historically and what we wanna look at.
It sounds like, I mean, that's so specific.
Yeah, but not just one specific one, but like looking broadly at like what happened and like to look at that, but I mean, just suggestion.
Historical issues in our district that could become culturally.
Roosevelt House historian.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly, it's a possibility.
I'm also like thinking if Kat or somebody else from my committee would be able to help more about environmental issues, like how has congestion pricing affected the particular air quality, and kind of digging deeper into that, and what more can we do as a district, and you know, something else.
I would love that as a rule to do the
So-
postmortem tracking
Yeah.
of the 14th Street busway. and
Exactly, the
attention.
traffic, the
So we have a
congestion.
stronger case.
Yeah, for maybe expanding it or increasing the fees,
Yeah.
as I've in support of going from 9 to 15 or whatever it is. You know, and I speak as a car owner. Every time I say that, I have to repeat, I, as a car owner in the district, am very much in support of increasing the congestion fee. But I would be interested in maybe possibly pursuing that.
And the only concern there is I wonder if it would be too hard to get the data at this point, because it's still being put together, but it's certainly worth.
It's a good question, because data is more accessible, but
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
But to the question of the research needs, and I think, and the committees I've been a part of, even in business affairs, there's a whole new team of each, like assembly person, council person, and there's not a connective tissue directly with the committees.
Mhm.
So anything that comes up or the postmortem idea, we don't have all the time. So this person could also be a delegate for those kinds of needs, in the absence of data, but OpenAI or Open Data New York, they could actually go into and kind of figure it out themselves.
I know one of the things that I think one of the other boards did was they did an analysis of empty storefronts, which we have a huge problem
Great, great.
in our district. And, you know, they could find the storefront, the size, why is it empty? Those, I mean, that kind of information would be extremely helpful. And that's a
Wish all these would be collectively posted. You know, from the community board, at least by the borough president.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
If that's, everything that you're mentioning is
Yeah.
kind of behind the veil, if that was accessible, then we would, you know, have ideas, for example, of, I've always thought that anyone that had a truck or a pop-up should be like on this journey map of getting a storefront. So it
Yeah.
kind of jives with that.
One thing that just occurred to me, and this is actually something that cuts across all the committees, is looking at what legislation has come up. Because I often find that there's just so much, whether it's the city council, the assembly, the senate. It's hard and oftentimes we find out about things too late, and then we're rushing to come up with a resolution because, oh my God, there's this intro that we didn't know about in the city. So if there was somebody who was actually tracking things and saying, oh, here's something that would pertain to this committee, alert us.
I
that would be.
gotta say, I'm not sure a planning fellow would want to
Well,
do that.
I will say in, like, to Steve's point, not every fellow is a planner,
Planner.
right? Like I'm now reminded, now that I see the bio, that the planning fellow that we had was actually a master's of social work student, who really didn't do a lot of data work previously and really struggled with that, and this was kind of her first foray into sort of analyzing like census data. So there is definitely an avenue in which there could be a planning fellow that can do some more research like this, and they also pair planning fellows based on their areas of expertise and their interest.
Well, the other thing is, it is a very set time period. They start, I think it's in October, and they need to do a presentation at the end. So there's some kind of a document that gets generated that is presented. But we just need, if people have ideas, they want to pull it together, we can apply for more than one. Sometimes it is a stretch if we have to take care of and make sure they get.
Does the chair need to be, or chair, vice chair have to be the person that's liaising with the fellow?
No, not at all. If it's somebody on the committee who really has an interest, they can do it. But you want to check with.
Surprise.
Or assign someone, okay, so I mean, if we have to get this done by August 1st, we really only have until next meeting to come up with some of these things. The other, well, two more issues. John and I are going to be meeting with all the new members next Wednesday. And we have 12 new members. And I was wondering if people could sort of think back and let us know what you wanted to know when you joined the board that you weren't told. What do you think it's important to share with new members to make sure they understand how the board works, and also our culture is CB6. We're not like every other board in the city. So what do you think is important? Jared.
I think Kyle, I'm not gonna say aired, but he focused on the sort of practical, how to write a resolution and so forth, and it was very much less about the culture and so forth. I think that's really helpful to let people know, because his attitude, maybe it was based on his personal experience, was like, shut up, don't say anything for a year. And that really wasn't the case. Maybe the committees I was on, but I think a combination between wanting to know, like, how do you tackle a resolution, and what is maybe the journey that, policy takes, and how, as Steve was saying, how does it fit in? Are we bracing ourselves based on the calendars of the city council and state government? Or are we
Yeah,
to lead
I
that?
really like that, because I'm still trying to figure out the calendar for city versus state. So when we have something that we are planning, like, okay, so this is kind of the timeline, at the end of the year, whatever's not signed by the governor, it goes back to square one and it has to restart all over again. Like, I like now some information like that, and then same thing for city, like how, like kind of having two separate things, because city doesn't work on the same timeline as the state does.
And I think that's something we're trying to capture in the committee handbooks,
Yeah.
especially Bach, where there are all these different rules.
I mean, one thing I would suggest, not to put him on the spot, but I would, for Gabe to do a report about the things that came out that might be relevant. And give us a heads up on maybe where things fell short, where we could begin focusing in September.
Gabe, you mean because of he's.
Right, so have an eye into what actually closed out.
And I mean, in a way, our meetings, when we have elected officials come, is a time for us to actually find out that information. It's nice to know when they have a shredding event, but also, but we can, let us know what is pertinent to our community.
Mhm.
And in a way, that's, all of us can do that.
And end of year stuff, I mean, I don't know how the work is parceled out, but to know sort of, like, for example, I found out 5 days after that the New York Fair Act was passed, after I was told by Kristen's person that it wasn't gonna pass, basically labeling of AI slop and protecting journalists.
Mm.
So various people told us it's not gonna happen, and then it did.
Yeah. And I think we also have to be sort of careful that I mean, our role isn't to support bills in the city and the state. Part of our role is to see what our community needs. So if we focus too much on that, that's not really steep.
I would go back to the norms discussion. It's a bit tricky because every committee operates a little bit differently, and so you can't say, well, this is the way we do it, because it really depends on the sort of nature of your committee and the perspective of the chair of that committee. But I mean, one of the things to think about is, like, as Jerry was talking about resolutions, it's not about how do you write the resolution. I mean, they'll figure that out with some support, but it's like, what is the process that we generally go through to bring a resolution to full committee? Because I remember one of my first committee meetings, somebody who was brand new came with a fully written resolution to the first meeting, and I was like, where's this coming from? You know, it's like, why are we, okay, like, shouldn't we first decide if we want a resolution about this, you know, before you bring it to us, and it's already like there, so.
Yeah.
Just that kind of, no, this is an example of like the norms of like how you get stuff done in the community board,
Yeah.
that it's not really obvious.
So how you get stuff done, write that down. And sorry, Kat had her.
Yes, just quickly, these are all great ideas that as the not new anymore as of this year. This is all great, and I agree. The repositories, we talk about Airtable and all these really great data points and historic information and institutional knowledge that we will lose at some point if we don't revert to it routinely. I think that can be even highlighted on the website much better. Even accessing we were talking about officials, that's in a different place than other resources. So no crit to the staff, but just, I think, a little bit easier to access those things, even city council reports, state assembly, like just directing them to where to go instead of them having to find all of these things in all of these different places. It's just, it's vast, and it's a little bit overwhelming for some of them.
And I mean, definitely resolutions, people need to know what that is. What else do you think is really important for them to?
Bylaws.
Well, and I mean, we give them the bylaws, so I think the first, like, that's the first thing they get.
I think to this general discussion, it'd be nice to emphasize to the new people that it is more than just showing up like on the day of the meeting, but like I personally expect as a chair to have like my committee members to have not just look at something the night before, but have like a broader knowledge. I'm not like expecting something super detailed, but like have a stronger background knowledge where they're looking at things on their own. Right? And whether that's the specific materials or like the broader discussion of what we're trying.
Going off of what she said, like, emphasizing that if you wanna submit something, or if you're editing something, get it done at least a week before the meeting. So one of my recent meetings, I got an email with an edit literally 5 minutes before the meeting started. So even I didn't have a chance to look over it, so there's no way we were gonna look at it or vote on it, so like emphasizing that if you are gonna work on something or edit something, you know, get it done and submit it a week in advance, and after that, don't make any edits. So if you have any edits, like, say it's not, you know, like, don't do it 5 minutes before the meeting.
So, I mean, and I think, did Neil have a question? No, okay. I mean, most of these things are about like participation, but if you belong to committee, you actually have to participate and do some things.
I think another thing, and this was something that I was really sort of handicapped by personally when I joined the community board, was sort of the initiative to go out there and explore interests that I had on my own beyond that of codifying it as a resolution.
Yeah.
Right, like. One of the first housing committee meetings that I attended as a member, Sandra brought up this idea of doing this housing study, which is now ballooned, and Steve's done great work to kind of show the results of this in ways that go beyond writing a resolution. And so now we've drafted district needs statements based on research. So I think that it's important, and I think every new member joined the community board for a reason, right? It might be something in the district, and they don't need to sit around and wait for it to become a resolution in order for them to see that purpose sort of
Yeah.
realized.
And I personally think we need to really stress that once you have the resolution, you then have to go out and do something about it.
Right.
It's
follow up on it.
Follow up, and that's probably more time consuming than writing. the
Or even
resolution.
prepare for it, come to a
Yeah.
committee with research to, you know, to Maya's point, do your homework.
Yeah.
Come prepared, bring data, bring, sources.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, our board is very respectful of the people on the board. We have people that disagree, but it doesn't tend to be aggressive, and hopefully that's stay. We don't know, we don't get to pick the 12 new people. But that respect, I think, is really important. That's something that's kind of unique for CBC. Yeah.
That's what I've heard from other,
It's no chair throwing and.
I've heard.
No screaming. So,
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, Sean, does that help us with our?
Yeah, I was thinking of, just little things like, the whole idea of if you're working on something, pre-wiring other people on the committee, what you're doing now, you have to make sure you're careful with quorum rules and make sure you keep the office informed, but all of that kind of stuff is really important, that people talk and understand what you're trying to get accomplished. But I really like the point about people come to the board with a passion. I look around the table, everybody came with an interest, and we can't let those things go away. It's sort of a balance between encouraging people to go off on their own. Like, I think Sandy and I, to some extent, were probably responsible for the resolution that showed up, because we encouraged someone at a prep session to do a reso, and I think they might have actually done that. But we give the idea also that you have to talk to people about it, especially the chair of the committee.
Well, and then, like this year, what we thought we would do is show them a resolution that we thought was really well written. And talk about how it came to be, like, what was the process? So it's not just, here's a good resolution, here's the process. Any recommendations for which resolution that would be? Like a recent.
You have permission to use all my resolutions.
Stellar example.
Sorry, Justin.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, I think it's worth, also talking about challenging situations that I face, like, for example, the Gramercy Park one. I think that's I know that when I first, like, my first month when I was here, the congestion pricing one happened, so it's essentially inevitable that within their first year, they're gonna face a situation that, A, they're not really sure how to handle, and B, they're gonna have to work through making that decision on their own. Like, they're not gonna necessarily, they can phone a friend, but it's good to know how to deal. You don't always know, we didn't know that half of Gramercy was gonna show up to that meeting. So I think understanding how to approach the situations could, I don't know if look at that resolution is necessary, but also bringing in a little bit of that training of how do you deal with situations where you do have a lot of community members that feel very strongly, and people on the board who also have kind of a variety of opinions, and how do you ground yourself in facts and also, trust your instincts and how you want to approach it.
Piggyback off of that, I'm glad you highlighted that, because that was one of the first meetings.
Yeah.
You're
still here.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
still here. Made it through. But Sandy, to the question of like, what's a well-written resolution to choose? I would argue, what's a resolution that made an impact? I wouldn't be so concerned with the grammar stuff, because I feel like at committee level, that's where we have a discussion.
Yeah.
That's where we refine it. And I would also want to give a little bit more diversity to your committee or Anton's committee and not just it always being the ones that are more sensational or are given more visibility. I would just say, no disrespect to anybody, but just coming at it with that approach, because we're all coming imperfectly into this space, so that's what I would
It'd be
suggest.
like the Emmys, submit your finest work.
So what resolution was very impactful this year?
You both looked at me.
Okay, looking at,
34th Street.
I was just
Busway.
thinking that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think 34th Street busway.
That
And
was-
it also is, you know, at least the east side wide. With CBs, mayoral impact.
and I gotta say, I tried really hard to separate the 34th Street from the Gramercy. We didn't.
Yeah.
Justin's insistence,
Yeah.
or Jason, I'm sorry. Jason. Justin's insistence.
I also think that 34th Street is a better example because that one, one of the reasons that did pass was I think the resolution was very strong. So I think that crafting a really well thought out, good resolution is gonna be able to go to a full board and you're able to make the argument just by from the resolution itself.
Okay, so I guess we'll use that one. I mean, and that definitely had a lot of discussion, pro and con and. Okay.
And it's already having an impact.
Yeah.
I mean, there are resos we passed that I think are great, but we won't know for a year whether
Yeah.
they were successful.
We're getting our unofficial pilot program.
On 42nd Street, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, listen, I was on 42nd Street on Saturday, loved it. Loved it.
although I was there when the buses got out, oh my gosh. It was wild.
People getting out.
I'm getting out, yeah. I don't know if France won, but there were a lot of
They
people.
did.
Okay. Priscilla's Law, we had we had someone come to full board and we've had people write the board as well, so. Is that something we should take up? Do we have anything in response to it previously to Priscilla's Law?
We have not specifically taken up Priscilla's Law. Relevant though, we have taken the resolution about recommendations for how to improve safety
Yeah.
with e-mobility vehicles. Which is, I think, relevant. Basically, there's a couple relevant recommendations, some road redesign, suggestions around enforcement, and talking about the delivery companies taking responsibility for monitoring speed and safety.
Yeah,
But no, we have not specifically addressed, Priscilla's Law, for everybody who's not familiar, is a bill that would require e-bikes to be registered as basically like a license plate system for e-bikes.
and I guess, I'm not sure it targets specifically, but scooters. There's a lot of discussion because there was that horrible accident on the bridge and.
So actually, I don't know if it does include anything with scooters.
That would be worth finding out, because I think that's
Some of these electric scooters,
go very
very
fast.
fast.
They're getting bigger and faster.
So notably though, the electric scooters are already illegal. So I don't think registration, well, the fast moving ones that were the cause of that accident on the Queensboro Bridge. But I guess not all scooters.
Do you mean borough-wide or city-wide?
Sorry, with regards to,
Scooters, they're in the Bronx, throughout the Bronx.
they're definitely, scooters in general are legal. I forget what they're capped at. I want to say 25 miles an hour.
But not to buy.
That's
They are
okay.
illegal to operate, but not to
That's
buy.
good.
Yes.
How does this jive with Sammy's Law? Once that kicks in, does that?
Well, we.
Yeah.
I guess we're just, people in our community
Yeah.
are asking for us to have some position on this issue. We don't need to decide here.
If you're into a contentious, full board meeting,
Unfortunately, you know,
I'm supportive of, discussing it. I don't, no, I'll keep my opinion.
and, you know, is it Jason or is it Stu that gets this issue?
Tickets.
I'm sorry, so. Bad hearing, so
I'm sorry, yeah, don't, we're just talking about Priscilla's law and the issue of, you know, motorized two-wheel vehicles.
Right,
And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community about trying to have some position on this as a community.
right, and it is a contentious issue,
Yeah.
and what we know is that certain people are more organized and more vociferous.
Right,
So we don't necessarily know the consensus in the community.
no, this is individuals within our community writing to the board. This is not some group, it's not it's someone who lives in the district who says, you know, please, let's take a look at this. We've had several. So it's not a group that says,
So
we hate all bicyclists, it's not that.
I'm just gonna defer it all to Jason.
I accept the deferral.
Like a committee meeting, sort of defray some of the potentially contentious debate that might come about.
Well, and I think, you know, the research to know some of the issues, like, are they illegal? What, you know, who does require a license? There's a lot of information that would be helpful to have.
Well, I think Priscilla's law itself is actually fairly straightforward. I mean, really, the initiative is to ask,
To be licensed.
just to license the, to put license plates on existing.
Motorized vehicles.
On motorized vehicles.
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, there could be a discussion, are there other solutions that are better, or, you know, I don't know. But it seems like it's something that we should take up in the fall. We're not having a meeting in August.
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Okay.
We have New Jersey, they just passed a law that's going into effect July 19th, and it's already being criticized. I'm sitting with you.
Yeah.
Does it require registration?
Yes, but it's also flat. It doesn't have distinct categories between any type of e-bike. So.
If you'd like to see my viewpoint on Priscilla's law, please Google my name and you can see my personal testimony to the city council.
Okay. We know as chair that you will put your viewpoint out in front of the committee, but as you'll simply guide the discussion.
Indeed.
So, the other issue, email. We've decided that we are going to do a kind of an executive summary of the 20 pages regarding the email. Well, I mean, we can talk about that more later, but we'll try and make a more concise sort of policy for the board that it's not 20 pages. So, okay. And we do have a new provider now for our website. So I don't know if that changes any of the discussion, but.
Is that why none of our names are on it?
Yes.
I was just asking Brendan before
Yeah.
the meeting, I'm like, is the website?
We're aware of the glitch. We're aware of the glitch. We're working with our new provider. They're getting up to speed, getting used to our site. We're aware of the issue. We're working to resolve it.
What's, if you don't mind me asking, what's the provider and how much are we paying? Was that an appropriate question?
The provider is a firm called Corner Shop. Let me get out. Their name is Corner Shop something else. I need to dig it up. But they're about a quarter of the cost of our old provider. So given our budget being as tight as it is, that does help. We learned about them through another community board who, Community Board 5, who has actually been using them for several years and spoke very highly of their work since they were already familiar with community board websites, a different website, but still a community board website. I had an introductory meeting with them. They seemed very nice. I liked their vibe. I liked their company culture and philosophy. The price was nice. And unlike our old firm, they allowed us to really tailor our services so that we're only paying for what we really need. So we're starting with a very bare bones plan right now, which could mean the initial startup costs, even still with some one-time startup cost, was still about a quarter of what we were paying before. But the bare bones we could get by on under $1,000 potentially. We will need some work here and there. So we're probably looking more in the $1,000 to $2,000 range moving forward. But again, that's still significantly cheaper than what we were paying before.
Great.
Wow.
Okay, well, that segues right into our district manager's report. Perez, our district manager, will give his report.
Yes. Something Sandy and I were discussing, and she'll send a note out soon enough. But one of the things the office wants to, and Sandy wants to emphasize, is that when we send out the RSVP form for these meetings, to please fill it out. Many members do, and they'll either tell us that they're coming in person or that they need a Zoom link for extraordinary circumstance, or they'll tell us that they're through temporary or permanent disability, they have to attend on Zoom that way. Because of state law, all of those things are sort of treated differently as far as quorum is concerned. So we do kind of need to know those things. The problem is that there are quite a few members that just don't bother to fill it out at all. And then there are members who send us emails, oftentimes very close to the start of the meeting, saying that they need a Zoom link. So the problem with that is that we then don't know how to classify them as, we don't know, are they saying they're disabled? Are they saying that they have an extraordinary circumstance and that's why they have to be on Zoom? That may not seem like a very important detail because of state law written the way it is, and because this board has opted to have this Zoom option, which it didn't have to. If the board didn't want to, it could take away the Zoom option and just go back to entirely in person. Some boards do that. But because we have that, we do need to track that. And so we default to, since we're not going to say, okay, since this person didn't tell us, we're going to call them disabled. We're not going to do that. We're going to say that this person had an extraordinary circumstance. Therefore, they will not count for quorum. They will still be present, sort of. They will still get to participate, but they will not count for quorum. And the borough president is now very interested in taking a look at members who use this Zoom option a lot. So they haven't decided anything, obviously, but they're looking at it now, and we're tracking it. So we really do need folks to fill out that form when the office sends it. Because it does really matter, even though it may seem like just a little bit of unnecessary, administration. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know it can be a little bit convoluted and stuff. I didn't write the state law, but.
And I just will say that, when people finally get the minutes and they say, oh, I'm not excused because I told you I was sick 5 minutes before the meeting, I don't remember. So it really is, if you're sick, just fill out the form and then it kind of solves that issue. So.
I think we just got another item for new member orientation.
Yeah, they explain the attendance system.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Would it operationally simplify things if we distributed panelist invites to everyone to avoid you guys getting like last minute requests for Zoom links? I appreciate it then potentially creates more complication with filling out the form, but does that solve the problem of like last minute requests?
Well, we had presented some of the members once or twice with a solution for that. For example, we do try to watch the email. We do try to watch our email in the minutes before the meeting comes, because invariably somebody will do it. But we've told people before, hey, just go onto the website and log in through the public link. You'll be an attendee, but then we can just promote you. That would be much easier on the office. But not a lot of members do that. And oftentimes when we tell them, the people who need to hear it aren't there. And I know from experience
the one issue, if we send out panelists for everybody, it's still like, why are you a panelist? It still doesn't quite cover that.
I just have a question. Jesus, you mentioned that the borough president is now taking an interest in this data. Is there
Yes.
any event or something that tipped them off to be curious about it all of a sudden?
Yes, well, this new borough president, they didn't start this appointment process. They inherited it from the last one because it started before the other one left office. And they were looking at attendance for returning members from the 12 Manhattan boards, and they realized, wow, every single board does it slightly differently, and it made the task much more difficult. They are exploring potentially coming up with a common set of best practices for attendance that the boards could adopt. Obviously, since the boards are all independent agencies, the borough president cannot impose, a common attendance tracking system. But they're hoping that if they can come up with one, that the boards will like them and choose to adopt them. That may make the process of evaluating attendance around appointment time easier. That's sort of where this came from. They did see in their review of attendance that there were members who were having extraordinary circumstances rather ordinarily. So they were becoming very ordinary circumstances and essentially abusing that privilege because technically, at least as our board is concerned, the way the resolution that implemented this on our board, that is a request. You are requesting to be allowed to be on Zoom for this reason. But I think at this point, people think it's just, hey, I asked for it, I get it. But I have seen it be denied. So we're hoping to get, a better sense of who's doing this. They are also, and then we'll see.
And I must say at Borough Board, there's a fair amount of discussion about getting quorum, that some boards have a lot of trouble. I mean, it really isn't, we haven't had, sometimes we have problems in committees, but it really is. So, but there's a lot of discussion. Anything else, Jesus, you wanted to?
No, I think I've gone on enough.
I realize that as per typical, I've missed something on the agenda here. The continued discussion of statement of district needs for core infrastructure, city services and resiliency. And I think we need to vote on which we have had people, we've discussed this several times. And I think there was a pretty robust discussion of this last month when I wasn't here. Was there a consensus on approving this? Do you remember this?
I think we wanted to wait for you to be back before we took a vote.
Okay, okay.
And now that you're back, I think we
consensus-
can take a vote.
I think the consensus was, environment with a strong side of.
Noise pollution.
Right.
But,
All right, if seeing no more discussion, we can vote on this issue. Was there any?
We discussed the portion on sanitation in public safety and sanitation. So is that not part of this?
Yes.
No. Well, sorry.
But last month, one of the things, as people were starting to coalesce around the selecting as the top issue environmental concerns affecting citizens, and yes, agreeing that would include things like noise pollution, the committee also then turned its attention to these optional areas down. If Brendan will scroll down a little bit, needs for water, sewers, and environmental protection, and needs for sanitation services. Given that they're much more specific, the committee opted to let the relevant committees deal with those, Stu's committee and Rupel's committee. And I believe they have discussed those, but I don't, was anything like solidified in those committees?
And I think we,
Public safety, yes, we agreed on text.
so my understanding is that we leave that for your committees to deal with, and we're voting on the portion that was in blue. Is that correct?
Ideally, we would have all of that settled and then you guys can vote, because in that way, then it's done and then we can just put
Or,
that to bed.
or the committees can do it on their own and we add it into this. And I mean, theoretically, we have a meeting in July, we could vote on it then, but that means that the two committees need to put their,
But, my committee's not meeting over the summer, so we're not,
and you don't have it.
we agreed on the topic, but we don't have the text.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Stu, your committee has agreed on the text?
We agreed on the text.
Okay,
We had a consensus. So do we submit it to you for the executive to vote, or how does that work?
I think if you voted on it, we just plug it in. We don't need to vote on sanitary, your committee's text. So.
Plug it in.
But we don't have,
yeah, we just discussed what we were, like the topic or the issue that we were gonna pick, or we picked, rather, not gonna pick, we picked a topic. Yeah,
so I suggest we vote on our portion of this, and we will add the other two as they become available. All right, does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Brendan. Okay, go ahead and complete your vote, please.
Yes, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Neil Barclay. Neil? We'll return back to Neil later. Stu Desker.
I'm in favor.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Jason Cromway.
Favor.
Dustin Goldberg.
In favor.
Rupal Picard.
in favor.
John Keller.
In favor.
Anton Malner.
In favor.
Sandy McKee.
In favor?
Alex Milichek.
In favor.
Steve Perez.
In favor.
Pat Valero. Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
Neil Barclay.
In favor.
Okay, all 13 committee members present are in favor.
Okay, we're not going to discuss committee agendas unless Anton wants to. He has a committee meeting. Anything controversial coming up?
As far as I know.
Okay,
I'm very, very happy that we're not getting 20 and 30 applications from the DOT. We're probably 6 months from now. So
saying them again,
Yeah.
okay. And the roadside dining, has that made it through the city? It has passed, that they're,
No,
they're
as far as
new.
I know, I
Okay.
haven't seen any change.
Okay. And is there anything else that you have a lighter agenda that you want to address in terms of?
Well,
Business.
we distributed draft of the bulk handbook
Oh, okay,
to the members, so I'm waiting for the comments, and just while we're talking, I thought of something that we could add in there, an addendum or an appendix, which gives the links to various city data. For instance, we talk about sidewalk dining. There are certain widths that you have to have. There is a data set in the city's website that gives you the width of each sidewalk in the city.
yeah, so you can check. Right. Okay. Let's see, is there, and, if any member of the committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand.
In general, or just?
No, in general.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about the kind of like data retrieval tool that I've been building. So Jesus, I wanted to, if we got a chance, I meant to respond to you, I'd like to meet with you. I have been building this data retrieval tool that essentially is able to pull data from 311 and all different sources that would be put into a repository that community board members could use in order to inform them about what's happening with 311, DOT, issues within the community, any data sets that could be relevant to. I have intended to show today as a prototype. I'd like to meet with Jesus first to kind of understand how something like that can be used. So I'm thinking that I can meet with Jesus sometime early over summer and then get back to everybody about it. But a lot of the capabilities of what you can build now are pretty incredible. And because New York City is so good at its data sets, that it there's a lot of data that you put into a central place that the board could use.
Did you code this yourself?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. All right, if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned.